Open up the depths of your heart to find eternity and live for more than your eyes can see. Give God the glory for all eternity.
Well, let's get right down to rule number 3. If the statement is impossible when taken literally, then it must be figurative. We should know when something is impossible, and the scriptures never lead us down trails of absurdity. When Jesus said, "Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead," Matthew chapter 8, verse 22, we know he was speaking figuratively. In order for the dead to bury the dead, they would have to come back to life, and obviously they would no longer be dead, so this is regarded as a figure of speech. Jesus is referring to the spiritually dead burying the physically dead. Matthew tells us that Jesus took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And later he took the cup and said, "For this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins." This is in Matthew 26 through 28. Now, Jesus is right there with them, and our author has told us that he took bread. This is obviously a metaphor, and we'll talk about its use in video number 48. Emphasis is sometimes given by placing more significance on a word than is usually expected. John tells us that the disciples believed after the miracle in Cana in John chapter 2 and verse 11. It's impossible that they were just then believing, since we have already been told that they believed. John told us this in the previous chapter, in John chapter 1, verses 35 through the end of the chapter. We must therefore look for a special significance in the word believed, for it must either have a deeper meaning than its original use, or have a repetitive effect. Both are present in John's gospel, and we should watch for them in the remainder of that work. When we do this, we learn that it doesn't just mean that people believed Jesus worked miracles, but they formed a conviction that he was the Son of God. In the case of John 2:11, it seems to establish what has already been stated in John 1. Their conviction has not just been created, but is confirmed in the sign presented in John chapter 2. Now, a word of warning is in order here. We must be very careful while determining what really is impossible. Miracles are not possible from a natural standpoint, but they are not figures of speech because they are possible with God. Now, I put a couple of examples on this on the screen below. Now, rule number 4 is a figure of speech is present if a statement is impossible because it demands wrongdoing or forbids doing good. Jesus said that one must hate family members in order to follow him. Luke 14, verse 26. And yet, we are not even to hate our enemies, according to him in Matthew 5, verses 43 and 44. The word hate in Luke 14 is really a comparison of how one feels toward Jesus. It's a matter of degrees. The love of Jesus is to be so intense that it seems that family members are hated. Which of these is correct? Do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you also be like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. Proverbs 26, 4 and 5. Different circumstances might be assigned to each, or we might consider the possibility of a play on words. The Complete Jewish Bible translates this, "Don't answer a fool in terms of his folly, or you will be descending to his level, but answer a fool as his folly deserves, so that he won't think he is wise." According to his folly is the same in Hebrew in both verses, but becomes an enigma for the reader to solve. Now, rule number 5. There is a figure of speech if the statement is made in mockery. If we may understand that sarcasm or mockery is used, then we have an irony. Micaiah told Ahab that he would succeed in battle in 1 Kings 22:15. On the surface, that might seem to be his intention, but the reaction of Ahab makes it clear that Micaiah was mocking him. As we read further, Micaiah tells Ahab what he actually intended, and it's the opposite of the first statement that he made. At the cross, we find that the people stood looking on, but even the rulers with them sneered, saying, "He saved others, let him save himself if he is the Christ, the chosen of God." Luke 23:35. The rulers urged Pilate to crucify Jesus because they did not believe he could save anyone, but now they're saying he saved others, but they're doing so in mockery. Well, there are two more rules to consider on this subject. So I hope you'll return for that next video that's going to present these. And at that time, I'm going to provide a PDF of these rules for you to keep handy in your studies.